Hello there YouTube. This will be my first official video on my new channel, as I am James Collett. From this point on, Jadopico the prop maker, Jadopico being an amalgamation of my initials, JDPC, James Donald Peter Collett. I'll let you figure it out. Anyway, since I am a prop maker and I enjoy swords and sword craft, I've been wanting to make a video on a subject which I've been finding interesting, and that is the piratical era. I've recently made 5 swords which are associated with the piratical era, and I would like to showcase them, just to show what I do here on the channel basically. These swords are made out of aluminium, so they are not fighting weapons, they are stage props, one could say. And before I go any further, I'd just like to say, if you're a historical rice bud, like Skallagrim or Schola Gladiatoria or the Metaton, and you are watching this, I am sorry if these swords are offensive to you in any way. When I made them because they were meant to be props for a fantasy film parody. I did not make them to be historically accurate. So if there's one detail that's wrong, or if there's something about them that's just not right, I'm sorry, it's not my fault. I was trying to make props, not to be historically accurate. Okay, so let's get this on the road, shall we? The first sword I want to showcase is the small sword. Now, not many pirates use the small sword because, as you can see, it is very small, and it is similar to the rapier. The small sword is actually an adaptation of the rapier, since rapiers were becoming obsolete, if you will, because gentlemen were becoming more and more civilized, if you will, and they were no longer expected to carry large swords as rapiers were in public. So they required a smaller sword, a dress sword, which is where the small sword came in. It was simpler, more efficient. This is not really accurate. It is a flat blade with 2 edges, whereas actual small swords were triangular ground, which meant that the blade almost had, like, I suppose you could say 3 edges, 2 being predominant, and the blade was made for thrusting. This one looks like a small rapier. It's made for both cutting and thrusting. And if you look at the design, it's very similar to Needle from Game of Thrones. I just based the design around Needle because, you know, Needle is very similar to a small sword, and I was trying to make a small sword, so hey, why not? Now, rapiers, there are some accounts that state that Spanish pirates and some other European bravos used rapiers, but on shipboard, rapiers, they would have been very pretty fancy weapons, but on shipboard they would have been immensely impractical. I mean, they're very long. Have you seen the size of some rapiers? You wouldn't get much space to wave that around on a deck of a ship. So a lot of the weapons were shorter. This is one of the heavier examples. The broadsword. This design that I have here, I based around, the design is an amalgamation of a Spanish broadsword, an Italian Schiavona broadsword, an English mortuary hilted broadsword, and a basket hilted broadsword, which is a Scottish design. So this is my own design of broadsword, basically. It had a double-edged blade with a fuller, sometimes multiple fullers, down the center of the blade, also known as a blood groove, so that the blade would not get stuck inside the opponent. And the main kind of attack with a with a weapon like this would be primarily overhead swings, quick sideways slashes, and powerful thrusts. And the strong basket hilt could be used to punch someone with. Sorry if I seem to be scratching myself a lot on camera. I've had a bit of an allergic reaction to a chemical that got on my goggles, my metalworking goggles, and it's rather reacting with my skin. So I'm sorry you have to see me scratch on camera, but it cannot be helped at the moment. I've applied a medicine, so it should be better later on, but it just can't be helped. I need to get this video up and loaded, so let's just get on with it. Next, my personal favourite, the Spadroon. Now, a lot of people give the Spadroon a lot of crap, unwanted crap, especially Skullgrim and Schola Gladiatoria, and I've just got one thing to say to those guys. If you think Spadroons are so shit at thrusting and cutting, then go take a look at the video of a demo of the Cold Steel Naval Spadroon, and then we'll talk. Anyway, the Spadroon is one of my favourites. It's a bit like the rapier and the small sword, but with a single-edged blade, often with a wide fuller. Mine does not have a fuller. And it had a blade that was designed for both cutting and thrusting, almost like a thrust-oriented saber, one could say. And yeah, many people give it crap because they think that they mucked up the design. One historical example called it the perfect encumbrance. I see it as exactly the opposite. If you can hone the design, then it can be very effective at both thrusting and cutting. So for me, I like it mainly because of I think it's a very practical design, combining the thrusting prowess of the rapier and small sword with the cutting prowess of the saber and the cutlass. So yeah, I like the design of the Spadroon very much. No offense to you if you don't like the Spadroon, I just happen to find it to be a very practical design. But, you know, to each his own. I will not judge. Next one, the saber. A little bit more elegant and refined than the other designs, and much more viciously curved. And along with the Spadroon, this kind of sword, the saber, was often used by the Navy, and the most effective way to use a saber was to use a technique called the Malinello, which involved figure-of-8 motions such as this. And if you had particularly strong wrists, you could make your blows very fast and very lightning quick, so that you might not have very powerful blows, but you could intimidate your opponent and veritably cut them to ribbons almost. This design is it's based around no particular style of saber. I just looked at a bunch of saber designs and I just made this one my own. It's a combination of a cavalry saber and a clamshell guard saber. Now, before you rice buds come at me with, if it's a cavalry saber, why are you putting it in a video concerning pirate weapons? Well, let me tell you something else. Pirates used whatever weapons they could find, so naturally if a pirate found a cavalry saber, he would use it. Likewise, in the case of the broadsword was also originally a cavalry design, yet it was adopted by seamen, seamen and pirates. So, unless you can explain how the broadsword found its way to be used by pirates, then don't judge me for making a cavalry saber and putting it in a pirate video. Okay? Okay, moving on. Final weapon, and this is a classic pirate weapon. I know it's not going to be historically accurate, but I did the best I could at the time being. The cutlass. Now I know this looks more like a Greek coppice, but there were examples of cutlasses that had recurved blades like this, particularly in the colonial period. And the cutlass had a single-edged blade, which was slightly curved, in this case recurved, and it had and this is more of a hanger design. Anyway, it had a very sharp single-edged blade. Some examples had a false edge on the tip instead of a clip tip like this, and they had a very strong guard with which you could punch. And it was short, it was effective, it was sharp, and it was so light that you could fight with it very quickly. Fights at sea normally lasted a minute or less, and that's all. And this is all you really needed for a fight like that: quick, sharp, and deadly. Now I know there are a myriad of pirate weapons here. Should I say there are tons of pirate weapons that I have not discussed. Things that pirates used as weapons that I have not discussed and shown here. But I have not got the time to show you them in this video. If this video hits enough likes, I will do an update in the future. I will do a reprise of this video showing you a lot more of the piratical options. But except for the firearms, those I'll have to show you images of because I'm not the best at making firearms. I'm getting practice with making firearms, and I will possibly do a reprise of this video in the future when I have firearms made. But until then, this is it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, slice that like button right down the middle and subscribe for more. Thank you very much.